You there?
Yes,
Dingus AI.
none side.
All right, just give me 1 second.
And that's being recorded. Wow. No
No, I'm
filter
just
for
turning
you.
the kitchen light off. What do you mean it has to be quick?
I didn't say that.
Yeah,
I
you
said,
did.
no, I didn't.
Dingus AI.
None side.
All right, let's get going. All right, guys. It's been, let's just say a little over a month since we watched the college football playoff final. So, if you, the last, we left off last time with our predictions for the game. Justin decided to pick the University of Miami because he's a big time closeted University of Miami Hurricanes fan.
That's actually false spin. I
I
actually haven't been a fan until recently.
You
I
still
just
chose
thought they
to
did.
you still chose them though. That's the whole funny thing.
Yeah, but they actually look like they can win. Not to
Well,
say
looked
Indiana
like they
couldn't
can win,
win,
but actually being able to win are two different things.
which they
So,
practically did until the very end. So, like I said, it could have gone either way.
oh, it could have gone either way. Anyway, welcome to the final episode of Opinionated Collective Sports Talk season wrap up. Today we're going to actually touch on the whole college football playoffs, and we're going to give our thoughts on the final game, as well as I have a big surprise for you guys next season, which includes a possible new name and some additional
Ooh.
formats and goodies that were discussed offline. Anyway, let's get into it. All right. So, during the final, I thought both teams played really, really, really well. I feel like Miami in this situation got outclassed for a good chunk of the game. What did you see on your end?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, like the first couple quarters, I should say first quarter and a half, I should say. Um, Miami couldn't get anything done, which is surprising. And kudos to Indiana. They just played excellent football. I
I
mean,
would
they just
say
played
part of this might
fantastic
also
football.
be because this was a home game for Miami, even though they were in the away uniforms.
Yeah, I don't think that affected anything that much.
No, well, it is their
I
home
don't think
turf.
so.
It is their
No, I
home
don't think so.
stadium. I feel like they took a week off. Either the preparation just wasn't good, or
Bullshit.
or we could sit there and say Signetti is actually a much better coach than people give him credit for.
I don't think it's either one of those.
What do you
I
what
think
do you
it's
think
just
it
the fact,
was?
I just think the fact is a great game. And they both teams prepared very well. I think it's a matter of the minds. Mendoza played great. Beck came and played great. And I think at the very end, Beck just made a bit of a bad decision in double coverage and underthrew it for it to be picked off.
So, interestingly enough, at least from my end, yeah, I can agree with that completely. Indiana really not only came to play this in this final game, but aside from the fact that out of the whole season, I think everyone's big question was who does Indiana actually play? So they played Indiana played, oh shoot, Loom's trying to enter. Nope. Indiana, honestly, from my aspect, I think not only did they prepare very well, they have a lot of good players. I mean, the biggest knock is you have Mendoza, I think, who I don't know what he's going to do in the NFL, honestly. I feel like he's more of a system college quarterback. He was great with Indiana. This was a particularly good school for him because
Mm-hmm.
the way the offense was structured, he had a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what it was. Signetti can scheme. Signetti also came from the Nick Saban coaching tree, as did Mario Cristobal.
Yep.
Both lines played particularly well on offense and defense. I just think because of the offensive scheme, Indiana just played a lot better. And I think the defense also did come to play.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was probably the wild card. Because we didn't know how well Indiana's going to hold up against Miami's big beefy offense and defense. But Indiana simply found a way to just stuff Miami when it could. And you know what? They've been doing that for an entire season.
Well,
So it
again, the
wasn't
question though
nothing
with
really new.
Indiana came to the fans is who did they really play? They played Ohio Soft State University in the championship game. They did show up in the playoffs. I think they definitely had a good path to the playoffs. Now to the final. Again, the question is who did they really play besides Oregon?
That's a great question. I'm trying to find Indiana. Trying to find Indiana's schedule actually. Um,
Uh,
they're not
don't
helping me
worry,
at
I found
all.
it. Give me 1 second.
NCAA are not helping me.
Okay, here we go. All right, so let's go back to the start of the season, which was September of 25.
Yeah, let's
Kennesaw State,
go.
Indiana State, an in-state rival, Illinois, next state
Hmm.
over. Then they played Iowa. Iowa's considerably a good team in the Big Ten. Just depends
Yeah.
on who you ask and what day. That was a pretty close game.
Hmm.
Played or Indiana plays Oregon, beats them by 10 points. Michigan State hasn't been that great for a while. UCLA, they're a long way. They should have stayed in the Pac-12, but that's another story. Maryland has an argument to be in the Big Ten, but I still see Maryland as like an ACC Big East style of school.
Hmm.
I don't. Maryland's had a rough transition to the Big Ten, from my understanding.
I understand as well. They haven't been so great
Well,
lately.
it's like UCLA. Everyone wants the Big Ten money. That's the problem. But that doesn't mean
Of
that they're suited to
course.
play in the conference.
Exactly.
Indiana then plays Penn State on November 8th. I mean, Penn State fell apart this year. They also
Yeah,
played
they did.
Wisconsin. Wisconsin was not that good this year. Then Purdue
Yeah.
crapped the bed, basically. The final game, December 6th, which was the Big Ten championship game, they finally played a good team, which was Ohio Soft State University. Ahem.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even Ohio State lost in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
up to this point, if you wanted to make an argument for who does Indiana really play, well, their strength of schedule pretty much is a bunch of scrubs.
Yeah. Indiana didn't play a, a whole lot of great
And it
teams.
only looks like scrubs because unfortunately a lot of these teams are either not so good or average
Or
at
average.
best and
Yeah.
just had bad days.
Yep. Like, yeah, exactly.
Now, Indiana's path to the playoff, Rose Bowl, Alabama, probably one of the few good teams that they played, and they caught in Alabama on a really, really, really bad day.
Well, yeah, Alabama just did not play at all.
I'm gonna say it again. Alabama had no business being in the playoffs this year. That was because the committee hates Notre Dame. Don't even start with me on Notre
No,
Dame.
I agree with you, yet at the same time, I it's a weird situation because Alabama and Georgia played each other in the
If you
regular
asked me
season,
Alabama
and
maybe 3 seasons
shh,
ago, yeah,
just let me speak for a minute.
okay.
I don't think Notre Dame was a issue here as much as it's just that Georgia and Alabama played in the regular season, and then they played each other in the title game. So one of them was going to lose. And because of the weird rule, I don't know why, that they can't be penalized in the title game. So it created this anomaly where it was essentially Alabama, Miami, and Notre Dame. And and it just doesn't make any sense in my opinion why Alabama got in. But
Because the
yeah,
committee hates Notre Dame. That's why.
we know that, but that was that's such a perfect storm. It doesn't it's absolute shit that Notre Dame didn't make it. I thought they should have made it myself, but I I mean, I don't know. I have nothing to
I
say
don't, the
about that one.
committee has a severe bias toward the SEC, just like
We know
everybody
that.
else on ESPN, and they thought we need three SEC teams. You didn't need Alabama. Alabama is not,
Alabama didn't need to be there. I agree.
Alabama should have been in one of the lesser bowls.
They shouldn't be in the bowl as
Just
well.
saying, if any Alabama fan wants to come for me and and either argue with me, I said what I said. Y'all shouldn't have been in the playoffs, and you know you shouldn't have been in the playoffs. Your team is not that good, and this isn't Callan DeBoer's fault. Callan DeBoer can actually recruit, but the quality of players is why Nick Saban is now basically broadcasting at ESPN.
Exactly.
You cannot blame Callan DeBoer, Alabama.
Nope.
Y'all got your magical run with Nick Saban for the best of Nick Saban's years, but now you don't have the good football players, and now all the good football players have options.
That's right.
Remember, Nick Saban couldn't get a top draft pick by the name of Travis Hunter, who went to the Jacksonville Jaguars. What does that prove to you? He couldn't get that kid
Yeah.
to sign on the dotted line to go to Alabama. Instead, Hunter decides to go play for Colorado's Deion Sanders.
Yep. There's a reason for that.
Now, with Indiana's last two games, Oregon, they beat him again, only
Oh,
after
that was worse.
this time it was a far Indiana just completely scored more and more and more on Oregon. And then last but not least, we have a really close game against Miami. By this stage, I would say after playing Oregon, Miami was a good opponent for them. Miami was very physical. But like I
Miami
said,
was
if you
probably the
ask
best
me, should
opponent.
Miami have been there in the final? My argument is let's now refer over to Miami's schedule because the next question that the fans should be asking is Miami was a good team and definitely deserved to be there, but who do they play?
Ah,
So
yes.
we
Is
start the
this the
year off on
current one?
September 4th with Stanford. Stanford of who had no business going to the ACC. This one I don't understand why school all the way out in coastal California decides to join the Atlantic Coastal Conference.
Because they couldn't go anywhere else because the Pac-12 went to shit.
That doesn't mean Stanford should be in the ACC. There's no actual regional connection for them. And the
Who
reason they're not
cares?
doing well in this conference also has to do with the fact that all their games they're having, when they're not home, they're flying out to the East Coast.
Oh well, look what the Big Ten's doing.
I mean, USC back in the in the 2000s, I might have made an argument for putting them in the Big Ten. But that's when they had the good football players. After that, you have Florida A&M, and then and then you started ACC play with Wake Forest. Wake Forest. Oh, I'm looking at the 2026 schedule. Oops.
Yep. That's what that's what I'm trying to figure out. What you doing, buddy?
Hold on, hold on.
Now loading.
Okay. So, Miami started the year out with your least favorite opponent, and they beat us.
Yep, and that's what got them in the first place.
That doesn't mean they should have gotten in, but we'll get to
Actually,
that
they
in a
should
moment.
have just by in fact they beat y'all. Now,
You know
now
what? Do I have to remind you that it's that the state that you lived in hates my frigging school so much because of something in the 1900s?
you mean you talking about South Carolina?
No, Michigan.
Okay, so what?
Remember that video you showed me?
Yes, but that's not where I've been born. That's not where I originally
You
went to
lived in
school.
Michigan.
Yes, I have.
You know why Notre Dame and Michigan hate each other. It's all fucking
I
Michigan's
do.
fault because they hated our greatness.
Actually, that's untrue. It's because Notre Dame cheated. That's why.
Hey, we play to win the game.
And you cheated in the process.
Shut
So
up.
guess what happens when you cheat? People don't like you.
You play to win the game.
And then you cheat. And when you cheat to win,
Y'all mad
you
because you
become
couldn't cheat
shit.
like y'all mad because your school went 15 and 0 about 2 years ago and that coach got was cheating himself with signs. Who's now in the NFL. You want to talk about cheating? You guys are hypocrites too cuz
Not
Harbaugh did it.
really. Not on the Yeah, but that's like I mean, that's allegations. That's something that people do anyways.
I
That could have
know
been
this,
any
but
other
they got caught.
schools. And guess what? Guess what happened? He was suspended. And guess what? The interim head coach still won the games.
And now the interim head coach is basically being a knucklehead.
Well, that's his personal issue. That's his personal issue.
Yeah, his personal issue, which he decided
To
apparently
be a
was more
dipshit.
important than the large amount of money that he was making.
Of course, but that doesn't that doesn't mean he didn't win the games legitimately.
Oh, sure. He got to the highest
So
level, but we already
so
went over
let's
that.
go. Yes, we have.
So then Miami Plains played Bethune Cookman, South
Bethman
Florida,
Cookman.
and the Gators.
Okay, they play. Yeah, okay. They play
So in
Gators,
each of these
Seminoles.
games, Miami wins 27-24, 45-3, not even really a game. South Florida, they beat them by 49 points.
Yeah.
Florida, they beat them by 26 points. Florida,
Okay.
Wa State, they beat them by 8 points. So that ended up turning into a
You
game.
mean
But
six
it's also
points?
Florida, Wa State.
You mean 6 points? You can't do math.
6 points. Shut up. Shut up, computer boy.
That's what she said.
Then Louisville, and now another West Coast school by the name of Stanford, who has no business being in the ACC, but because the Pac-12 fell apart, they didn't have a choice.
Right. Yeah.
Then Miami goes into a string of games for the remainder of the year. SMU, Syracuse comes down from upstate New York.
That
Syracuse can either be good
was
or bad. It
sad.
just depends on the year.
Yep. Yep.
NC State beats them by hangs 41 on them. Virginia Tech uh hangs 34 on them. Finishes the year out with Pitt. And now we come to some closer games. So, okay,
Yep. So
I
we
will
got
say
Sam,
this.
Ohio State,
I
Ole
will say
Miss.
this for
Yeah.
the playoffs. Yes, Miami did match up against a few better opponents. Texas A&M, that was a close game, but I would say that game was questionable.
Mm,
Ohio Soft State University, that was a quality win. Now,
hmm.
outsmarting Ole Miss,
uh,
whose quarterback just got a 6 year of eligibility, by the way.
no, he didn't get the 6 years. He didn't get the sixth year.
No, they're giving it to him.
They are. Oh, really? I guess they
Yeah, they
appeal
just
one.
gave a linebacker at the University of Miami an 8th year of eligibility.
That doesn't mean they're gonna give the other one guy did, but hey, whatever. NCAA.
The Ole Miss game was a quality win. I'll give Miami that one. And now we
Yeah,
come to the final where
and you have
you
a
played
quality
Indiana.
loss. Yeah,
This was a close game, and it just so happens that one team did want it more. So I do say yes.
yeah.
Miami played some.
I think Indiana wanted it more. I agree.
Indiana did want it more. Indiana played a lot better, more complete football. I
I
will
can
not
agree.
knock Miami for saying they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. I will say this much with Miami. I think the playoff wins were more quality than the remainder of than their conference play.
That I can concur on. Yes,
But the
and
only
that
reason
just
that they ended
tells you
up
about
in
the
that
ACC.
playoff in the first place was because Notre Dame is not liked by the committee.
I think it goes beyond that, Ben. I think it's more of a perfect storm of events. Um, and there's the fact that you got the ACC essentially effectively fucked up. With Duke winning the ACC, that made no sense. Um, Bama couldn't get penalized, which was stupid. And unfortunately for Notre Dame, Miami just beat them in week one. So you have three things that practically went didn't go Notre Dame's way. And in fact, if we really want to think about unfairness, BYU should have been in.
That I'll agree with. BYU should have been in there,
I
but they
mean, they
weren't.
shouldn't have been penalized for losing. Who did they lose to again? I forget. But they shouldn't have. Even though they lost that title game, they shouldn't have been penalized. And I think all four of those things just made it. It just doesn't make sense.
Either way, it was a good playoff series this year.
Oh, it's excellent.
Granted the ratings were atrocious when you polled all the major networks, and a lot of people didn't necessarily like what they saw.
Mm.
It, it
Wow.
wasn't bad for an overall playoff this year. I
I think it
thought
was an excellent playoff. I
they
think
got
it's
a
the
lot of
playoff of
things
the year.
right. I mean, the happiest takeaway for me was seeing Ohio Soft State University lose.
I mean, for a lot of fans, that's usually a great thing to have happen. But I think that what's even greater is the final game of the playoff had no blue bloods. There were no Michigans. There were no Ohio States. There were no Notre
Oh no,
Dames.
it
There
was
were
different
no
this year. I
nothing.
mean, that was actually the nice
That's what
part
made it
about it for one.
magical. It's like it could go either way, and the storyline was perfect.
Actually, it's funny because you just had a Michigan and Ohio State coach coaching against one another in the Super Bowl.
How funny! Didn't watch it, but how funny!
There'll always be some Michigan Ohio State connections even in the NFL.
Of course they will be. But then again, it's the NFL. What good can? How nice is the NFL? Um, but yeah,
Honestly, I watch the NFL, but not as frequently as college.
I just can't get into the NFL.
The NFL, this
It's
is what it is with the NFL.
eh,
I will still watch the NFL, but here's why I like college better. Not only
stories.
has better storylines, you can just tell that there's an ups there'll be a bunch of upsets where even if you have a team favored in what while you're doing betting, College is the one sport you do not want to bet on, especially in football
No.
or basketball, because there'll be an upset. The NFL,
Oh yeah.
what has honestly, this is for me. This is me because, a friend of mine in Massachusetts wonders why I don't really pay much attention to the NFL anymore. It's not just because of my New York Jets, it's because honestly, the NFL is scripted.
Oh yeah. Completely.
Yeah, I mean, if you want the best example of scripted, explain to me why Tom Brady, a former Michigan alum, has like six rings. You cannot sit there and make the argument that the NFL didn't rig for the GOAT.
Who knows? Who knows?
If you want scripted, I'm starting to wonder, did Bill Belichick deserve it? Was Bill Belichick snubbed to the NFL Hall of Fame actually what you know the word I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
Deserving. The biggest problem with him, the biggest problem with him is he had issues coaching Gen Z in the NFL, and then he thought he could coach him in college.
Oh, North Carolina. Man, that was a sad season. That
I
was almost as
actually think
bad as
he's getting a
Oregon
second
State.
year. That was only the first year of his system with Mac Brown's players.
Hmm.
I think if you give him at least another year or two, then you evaluate it and see where it goes.
Agreed.
I don't think the first year you can completely pin on him.
No,
Honestly,
you
he's
can't.
prepping that program for his kids to take over eventually.
Fair enough.
This is like literally just a paycheck to him.
Yeah.
I mean, if I were him at this stage, like Saban, I'd have just instead of coach, I'd have just stayed broadcasting. But that's me.
Hey, everybody has their fetishes.
Womp womp womp.
Yep.
Uh, all right. So we that was the season in a nutshell. Now there have been some interesting storylines here and there coming out, but one thing that I will say for Miami is I think Cristobal needs to actually do what he did with Malachi Tony.
Mm.
This year, it would be nice if you could recruit a freshman quarterback and develop the guy
Yeah, we'll
instead of
see.
having to run to the transfer portal just to get a
Uh,
transfer quarterback every year.
well, hey, but you know what? Look at Indiana. They built their roster through the transfer portal, so
Yeah, because Signetti's a new coach, so it's understand
sure.
you can do that in my opinion for probably 1 or 2 years
Yeah,
or
yeah,
3 years at most, but that
okay.
shouldn't be your default every single time. At some point, you're going to need to start developing players. Perfect
Yeah,
example
fair
of that
enough.
is look how fast Florida Wass State fell apart.
Yeah, that is a great example, actually. After
Orville kept going to the transfer
2023,
portal.
yeah, it's it's a risk reward, that's for sure.
The transfer portal should not be a strategy when you're building a team in college football. Yes, they have a salary cap. Yes, they have general managers like
Yeah,
the
but
NFL.
yeah.
But
Well,
and
the problem is you have to make it a strategy because it's the only real way to actually recruit players that you need. Because,
you still have to develop at some point.
well, that's the thing. It's like you can't develop these kids if they're not willing to stay. So you can't rely
Well, that's
on
because we're
them
dealing with
willing to
a different
stay.
generation now. Like when Saban was
Even
used
if
to
you use the
Saban for let's use
generational.
Nick Saban as an example. Nick Saban was used to coaching whatever was remaining of the baby boomers, and then he coached Gen X and the millennials.
Yeah.
You had two generations who effectively, thanks to the NCAA being pricks, could basically stay all 4 years. All,
Oh yeah. And there's all these reasons for it too. I mean, back then, was there online schooling? No. Back then, was it easy to transfer? No. Was it easy to leave? No. So there's really no incentive for really players to leave, but there's a big incentive to go where you want to go and develop and have a good time. So back then players they picked the college, they stuck with it because they know they're gonna be there for a long time. Today, you literally can enroll in school A and then in the next term enroll in school B and transfer from the comfort of your home.
Understood, and I don't disagree with
So
that. But
I
at
mean, now
this,
for players it's a little different, but it's the same model. You know, it's like it's the exact same model. Like one season you literally go in, you play, and if it doesn't work out, the the player can easily just put their name in a transfer portal, transfer out, opt out of all the bowl games.
you have the 47th administration who apparently wants to do something about that.
Who cares about who's
Well,
on?
apparently the presidents of the universities are all complaining it ruins college football.
Well, it might be, and you know what? Hey, they let it happen. They all let it happen, and they.
Well, look at Nico Lamavaya, for example, that story from the
Oh
season.
yeah,
You
and
had,
yeah, you got that
believe it or
one. You
not,
got one
Troy
from
Aikman
Duke.
complaining about having to write checks as an alumni to UCLA for a kid who didn't even want to really play there, who only really came there for money.
Well, hey, you know what? You can't fault them.
No, you can't fault them, but you can also take a look at kind of the irony of his statement. He doesn't like writing checks as an alumni,
Then don't.
now,
Then
but they didn't have
don't.
an issue doing it before when UCLA could get top players.
Then don't. Simple as that. They could just don't. And I don't understand the issue here. It's like, well, I don't like doing it. Then stop.
Oh, he has the option to, but he's quite
Just
wealthy now, especially
stop.
because of broadcasting.
Just just stop. These kids are motivated by things that didn't exist before.
You mean they're motivated by money?
Right. Like before you couldn't take money. You couldn't do those things. But now the market's been liberated, as they say. So you now we have this capital flowing. And so it's all about it's not just football, it's everywhere. It's gymnastics,
Oh yeah,
baseball, basketball.
basketball. Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Carter, great example.
Well, yeah, because especially
Baseball,
for women's basketball, she delayed the
baseball, even
WNBA only because the WNBA doesn't pay women appropriately, so
of
you
course
might as well
not.
just make the money in college.
See, and you got those, and I think so. In that way, I actually think nil is great because it gives them a chance to make a little money before they graduate, so they don't end up in the hole, and maybe they can do something nice for people who didn't get that chance.
Yeah,
Um, I
I'm not saying I disagree with nil. I just think
it's it's funny because
I like the concept of nil. Don't get me wrong.
it's a
However, the
double-edged sword.
implementation of it is a complete different story.
That is true. Very true.
It's just like, for example, not so much the transfer portal. It's Cristobal and some of these guys would rather just go to that for a quick fix, even Dion, but try getting a kid as a freshman, to come to your school for 4 years. I get it. It's easier to just go to the transfer portal.
Because it's think of the job market for a minute. Why would you hire a entry level per someone who doesn't have the skills yet, or an entry level practitioner, when you have a plethora of others who you can just get that are already up and running and ready to go, and you just pay them? money.
That's understandable. But then at a certain point, you're also losing out on being able to fully develop someone and then see how long they want to stay. But then you're right.
But they don't care about that. They care about, can we form the dream team today?
Understood.
So the logic is flipped. Before it was about building dynastic legacies. Today is what today is what can be built in a day for the glory of tomorrow, and who cares if it lasts?
I think because the other half the argument is Gen Z started out Gen Z the first Gen Z became are going to be about 29 this year, correct?
Yeah, I'll take that.
1997. I think you look
Sure.
at a bigger problem with this generation. The first, I think, almost NFL draft class of Gen Z, I think was the 2021 NFL draft.
Mm,
Only one of those quarterbacks only one of those quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts, got a Super Bowl ring about 3 years later. The
hmm
remainder of them either ended up as a backup or kind of has been through a few too many coaches.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
as far as coming into the NFL and being football players goes, Gen Z, each of these classes has literally been hit or miss. Fernando
Yeah.
Mendoza, I think if he's gonna be the top pick in a draft, he's not gonna get his choice of which team drafts him, and it's not gonna be the teams drafting in the top 10 of the NFL are not historically good teams.
I don't know.
They
Look at
who
Sanders.
don't know how to draft and support a quarterback properly. So, you know, that I mean, you basically have it to the point where even Arch Manning won't declare for the NFL draft.
Yeah.
What's Arch's incentive? Arch could
None.
literally, after college, just decide, I want to go into broadcasting instead. Like, my uncles can probably put the word in for me somewhere.
Exactly.
If Arch
So,
tried to go to the
yeah.
NFL, I don't even think he would be as good as his uncles. I mean, we already saw how much hype they did with Peyton and Eli in two different generations, between two different
Mm,
generations. Then
yep.
the NFL. I think Arch will be a great college quarterback, but do I see him becoming a great NFL quarterback? No.
Yeah. It happens, man.
I think
And
he'll end up I think he'll
I think
end
he'll
up
be
with
fine.
his father and uncles figuring out something else he wants to do with his life. I don't think he's going to be going to the NFL.
And that's okay.
Financially, he doesn't even really need to. The Mannings
No, he
were
doesn't.
always a well-off family. Peyton and
Yeah.
Eli didn't necessarily need to go to the NFL. They could have been
Anything they
successful doing
wanted.
other things, but the NFL was a plus for their brand.
Right. There you go. There you have it.
So now that we have that out of the way, we're not going to do the whole predictions on next year's, playoff because it's
It's
college
way too
basketball
early.
season, and that won't be until August, but when we come back in August with our prediction show, but I will say this much, it'll be sure a lot of fun to be monitoring in the off season, what
Oh,
happens now.
yes. It'll be fun.
And I know we set this for an hour, but because we did a pre-show before the final, we covered most of the material that needed to be covered in that one. I think this one is sufficient enough to maybe just end a little early, if that's okay with you.
Sure. Yeah.
So, big announcement. This fall, Justin and I are going to be figuring out how to incorporate we're going to choose one game a week Saturday during the next college football season. We're going to do a live stream. We're going to be researching that, but I figured this would be, fun for me and him to now expand on sports talk. We're gonna go into live broadcasting. So now you'll get us for the duration of one game that he and I agree on a week. It'll probably be his favorite team, Georgia Tech, or an SEC game or a Notre Dame game. We will figure that out in the off season.
We'll figure it out, yo.
And if you want to hang with us again next week. If you want to hang with us at the start of March, we'll be back with Business Gaslighting 101 very soon. So, thanks for following us all season. We've had fun making these videos, and we're going to be back also with a potential new name in the fall. All right, guys, season over. See you next fall.
See you on Expo.